So today I want to talk about the character Yumura Kirika from the Japanese anime Noir. And in this video, I want to talk about like two very important things about her character. I want to kind of talk about why a character like her resonates with people, and also just how she is a character that with severe mental illness and mental health issues. And a little bit about the Japanese anime Noir. That It came out in the year 2001, and it was done by Koichi Mashimo, who did Dot Hack Sign. Dot Hack Sign was in it was on Adult Swim for a couple of years, and Noir is an anime about these two assassins, and one of them has amnesia, Yumura Kirika, and they both want to kind of figure out like their past, and they both find out that their past has to deal with this occult that is into murders and organized crimes. And I would almost like to say like the mafioso meets the Illuminati type of thing. And also a few things about Noir. It's considered one of the best girls with guns animes ever made. It was inspired by Luc Besson, who did La Femme Nikita, The Professional, and a lot of other films. He also did The Fifth Element. Koichi Mashima was inspired deeply by Alfred Hitchcock. And he's also inspired by James Ford, if you guys know who he is. He did The Searchers and Stagecoach, which was the first Best Picture winner, I believe. And also, when you look at this anime, there's elements of it being inspired by Ghost in the Shell, like the idea of a woman that's a super killer, but not knowing their past origin and having identity issues. Like, I think after Major did that in Ghost in the Shell, there's been a lot of just incarnations of that characters in different forms, and Noir definitely shows that influence. And obviously, if you look at Yumura Kirika's hairstyle, is very similar to a Major from Ghost in the Shell. But to get into a bit of her psychology and why she resonates with people, I do have to kind of compare it to my life a little bit, because when I first watched Noir in high school, I believe that it was possibly like 2000, and it was possibly like around 2004 or 2005. So I was between like 16 and 17 years old when I watched Noir for the first time, and I was blown away by the music. I was blown away by the violence, and I was blown away by like the character development. And I think that what made me resonate with her was like the first scene you see Yumura Kirika, she kills like these people without ease and is playing like this very powerful Gregorian inspired music, and she says something like, "If killing is so easy for me, why do I feel sorry for what I've done?" And I remember that got to my heart a bit, because when I was a teenager, I was like, wow, that's very powerful. Like, she feels so much guilt for who she is. And I kind of could resonate with that at that time, because I dealt with serious depression. I was biracial in a community where I was around a lot of white people, thought that I was a black man, and I used to act out a lot. And also, I went to middle school in New York City. I lived in Connecticut at that time. So when I was in New York City, I went to Wagner Middle School. I would see people get up and fight and brawl. I definitely got my fair share of bullying, and I definitely just had a lot of anger from like middle school, and not standing up to a bunch of bullies. And part of it was just how I was raised. I was never raised to fight back. And then also, like, I was raised to kind of run away and tell a teacher when the snitch culture says you don't do that. You either tolerate the bullying or you either just get into a fight. And I just tolerated it because I didn't want to kind of deal with the drama at home. But but all those emotions from being bullied in middle school, identity issues because I dealt with racism, living in a mostly white community that thought that I was a black man when I'm actually biracial, I had a lot of pent up anger and frustration. So I could resonate with Kirika's character, like deadly but conflicted, because you don't really look inwards. And I think that one of the reasons why that's why I resonate with her. But I also realized that why I didn't look inward was because, I just didn't have the courage to simplify how I was hurting and then actually kind of say it. The next thing about Kirika's character is, like, obviously she suffers from very serious depression. And the thing about her is that, obviously the goal is that, Marielle is assigned to kill Kirika. and Kirika wants to know her origin. So because they're contracted killers, the negotiation is like, okay, well, as soon as they figure out what their past is and they work together as assassins to go through all these gauntlets that are set up against them and these trials and ordeals, because Mariel was originally assigned to kill Kirika. Kirika says, you know what? Once we figure out what our pasts are like, you have the permission to kill me because you were assigned to kill me in the beginning, and I'm ready, and I accept my death sentence. So obviously, when you look at Kirika's character, she resonates with people who are suicidal and very, very depressed, because I thought of suicide. I dealt with depression for a majority of my life. I think that maybe ever since I was like, a preteen to like, like 33, 34, I thought of suicide for a span of over 25 years. And I want to be honest with that because, there are other people that it may help other people out here there to get help. But when I thought of suicide and when I had really serious depression, I kind of said to myself, you know what? Maybe there's a special day like a Christmas, maybe going to a place like, New York City, where I grew up, or maybe going to Vermont, where I went to college, or there's either a date or a location you kind of maybe say, you know what, maybe I want to commit suicide there because it's symbolic to me. In the same way that she wants to kind of be, to die at the end of like figuring out what her past is, or at the end of just having some closure. And, or there's some people who are like, you know what, well, as soon as I accomplish something that I want to do, then I'm going to kill myself because I just want to get out quickly. That's the mentality of people who are suicidal, and I've definitely have had that at some points in my life. And she resonates with me. And I think really quick, I'm going to say it at the end of the video, but I think if you have suicidal thoughts or serious depression, talk to a fucking therapist and get help, because at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. And whatever's hurting you, or if there's somebody that's hurting you, life goes on without you. Nobody's going to care like a week or two after you kill yourself. So, at the end of the day, there's not a long-term outcome. Jesus Christ is dead. Martin Luther King is dead. A lot of great people have died in history. People can mourn them for whatever time, and then it's over. So not even like the most famous people in the world, people are mourning about. Usually when somebody dies, people are upset for like a week, and then you move the fuck on. So there's really not a big payoff. Like, your death is not going to be like this life-changing thing or this world-altering thing, because sometimes people who are suicidal think that way. And if I can kind of put that information out there, I would definitely want to say I'm definitely saying it in this video because that can help people like deter suicidal tendencies. The other thing about Kirika's character that resonates with me, and that's part of her psychology, is that she's amnesic and she doesn't know her family. And you see a picture of her with her parents smiling and laughing and stuff like that. And that kind of almost makes me want to cry too, because what's kind of revealed is that those were surrogate parents, and that's not really her. And then she wakes up in a bed. And she kind of doesn't know her real past. And I've been adopted. And for a long, long time, I didn't know who my biological family was. I didn't even want to get in touch with them. But last year, my brother did the 21andMe, and he put it on me. And I always felt very mad at him for doing it, because I really didn't want to get to know my biological family, because it hurt too much. And I already created an identity, but automatically he took my identity, what I use as a closure, away from me, because he wanted to kind of be open about it. And even though I told him not to, he threw that on me. But I also feel like it was helpful in me in some ways, because you can't just kind of almost have a schizophrenic type of identity about yourself. But I think the fact that her parents were not really her real parents, it resonated with me because I was adopted, not knowing who her actual parents were, or there are mysteries about her past, or there's different stories about her past that resonated with me, because when I was adopted, I heard different stories. I heard that I was autistic, then I found out that my parents said that I was autistic through child abuse, therefore I got adopted. There's no such thing. You can't get autism from being abused. And then also too, I found out that I had a psychiatrist, Dr. Nancy Moss from Connecticut. I don't mind saying the name because she really hurt me. She lied in my face about saying that I was autistic. And then I read her paperwork, 20 years later, and I found that I was never autistic. And then I also was reading some paperwork saying that I was abused and neglected as a child. There's court papers saying that. But my adoptive parents said that I would never was abused. I was neglected. And I need to show some appreciation and understanding for my biological mother. I heard different stories from my biological aunt Lisa and my biological father, saying that I was neglected, I was my mother's favorite, but she saved her abuse towards my older brother. And there's a story that she took glass mile and smashed across my brother's face. But and that's serious. And my brother has mental health issues, and he has detachment issues. So I never forgive her for that. But I think the point I'm trying to say is that there's different stories about both of our origins, but especially my origins about was Byron abused or not abused. My adopted parents did tell me a few weeks ago that my mother possibly took drugs when she was born, when she had me. That's why maybe I had mental health issues, and I found out that that wasn't accurate. By my biological father, like she was a really big, just no vaccines, no whatever, just a natural birth, never taking like drugs or whatever. So it's very, very disturbing. But when I look at Kirika's character, I can kind of resonate with somebody who is kind of lives an anime character who's like, you know what, I don't know my past. There's different like stories about like what happened to me, and each one is emotionally painful. So I resonate with her character because of that. I also resonate with her character because she was a bit of a lone wolf, like always by herself. There's an episode where she falls in love with somebody, but it doesn't work out because she's in the lifestyle of killers. He gets killed. So there's always a sense of you're on your own because you're either moving, you're on your own because your life doesn't dictate it. She has the life of an assassin. She's not the girl going to a high school prom. She's not the girl who resonates with a lot of people her age because she has mental health, she has amnesia. She's definitely a victim of trauma and emotional abuse. The same way you look at somebody like me, adopted out of a questionably abusive situation, told that that I'm autistic my entire life when I'm not. Somebody who, what is a biracial person raised by white people, growing in a lot of white communities where I was the African American when I'm mostly white. My mother is my father is white, my mother is biracial and part Native American. So half white, part black, part Native American. But I'm the black man in many circles. And then also you look at just questioning different stories about like how I was raised. Was I abused, not abused or not neglected as before I was adopted out of that situation? So I can kind of really, really resonate with a character like Kirika because there is a sense of not belonging because your life has given you mental health issues, abandonment issues, trust issues, emotionally abusive issues, and other things like that. And it's all really sad, but there's a lot of people who have that. So I think that her psychology and what she struggles with resonates with me, and that's why it resonated with me as a teenager. And definitely, I was a very emotionally sensitive person, so when I found a connection at that time, even though it was fictional, it meant a lot to me. She was one of the waifu characters I had at that age, but thankfully I've grown to understand that I think that sometimes when you resonate with a character and it reflects a lot of pain and negativity you have in your life, that's something you need to talk to a therapist about because obviously you can resonate with a character, but she's not a character to romance about because any bad character is not a character to romance about. It would be the same thing like in the 90s. There were a lot of kids who wished Homer Simpson was their dad or imagined that. But obviously if you romanticize, or you kind of did things to kind of be like Bart Simpson, hoping that your dad would become like Homer Simpson, it will lead you into a world of shit and trouble. The same way you look at a character like Kirika, you may say to yourself, you know what, I know some girls who are emotionally disturbed and struggling with their past, and you decide to be in a relationship with them. You don't know. Some of them may do better and persevere, and there may be some who are violent and crazy, and you marry into that chaos, and then that becomes your life. So I think with Kirika's character, it is a reflection of a lot of pain that I have, and she's probably a reflection of a lot of pain other people have as well. That's not named Byron Andreas. So I think that when you find a character that reflects a lot of you, and it's really negative, it's a sign that you should talk to somebody and save your own life.